In 1912, a boy named Bobby Dunbar disappeared suddenly in Opelousas, Louisiana. 8 months later, Bobby was found and reunited with his parents under police protection. Although Bobby ran to his mother and was embraced, she seemed bewildered as to whether the boy was really her son. The boy presumed to be Bobby lived with his parents, but a woman later appeared claiming to be the real mother of the boy. Was this woman really the boy's mother? If not, who was the boy? The truth of the case was not fully revealed at the time. Over a century later, Bobby Dunbar's granddaughter applied for DNA testing to uncover the truth of the case. What was the mysterious truth of this case? Bobby Dunbar was the first son of Percy Dunbar and Leslie Dunbar, born in 1908 in Opelousas, a small town in Louisiana. Later, his younger brother Alonzo Dunbar was born, and the Dunbar family lived a very ordinary life as a family of 4. In August 1912, 4-year-old Bobby went to Swayze Lake with his parents for a day trip. While fishing with his father Percy, Bobby suddenly disappeared, and Percy discovered that he was missing. Percy called Leslie and together they searched the surrounding area, but they couldn't find Bobby. Worried, they contacted the police. The police began a full-scale search, suspecting that Bobby had been kidnapped or drowned in the lake. Opelousas residents also participated in the search, scouring every corner of the town, but found no clues. Percy couldn't give up and offered $1,000 to anyone who could find Bobby. However, Bobby's whereabouts remained unknown, and Leslie was overcome with sadness. 8 months after Bobby's disappearance, the police found a suspicious man with a boy resembling Bobby in Columbia, Mississippi. The man's name was William Cantwell Walters, a professional piano and organ repairman. He claimed that the boy's name was Charles Bruce Anderson and that he was the son of Julia Anderson, who worked at his house. However, the police did not believe Walters' claim. The boy he was with matched Bobby Dunbar's characteristics, and the police arrested Walters as the kidnapper and informed the Dunbar couple. Upon hearing the news, Leslie immediately ran to the boy. People expected a touching reunion, but Leslie, the mother, seemed stunned upon seeing the boy. He looks a lot like Bobby, but something feels different. Is this really Bobby? Leslie couldn't just be happy and had an uncomfortable feeling towards the boy. Meanwhile, the boy called Leslie "Mom" and hugged her. Since the boy hardly spoke, it was difficult to confirm if he was really Bobby. Leslie told the police that she wasn't sure if this boy was her child, and the police decided to keep Leslie and the boy together in a hotel for one night. The next day, while giving the boy a bath, Leslie found scars and marks in the same places as Bobby's body, and she became convinced that he was Bobby. She told the police, and they sent the boy to the Dunbar couple. When Bobby returned to his hometown after 8 months, the town was full of celebration. However, when it was revealed that Leslie was not convinced that the boy was Bobby, rumors began to spread that the boy was not really Bobby. And then, a woman claiming to be the boy's mother appeared at the police station, and the police arrested her for kidnapping. Her name was Julia Anderson, as Walters had claimed. Anderson claimed that she was working at Walters' house at the time and had taken the child Charles, whom she had adopted, on Walters' trip. This matches Walters' claims at the time of his arrest. Anderson tried to regain custody of the child through the trial. However, her claims were rejected based on the child calling Leslie "Mom," hugging her, and the scars and marks on the child's body matching Bobby's, which were all included in Leslie's testimony. Anderson, who had no economic resources to continue the long trial, returned to her hometown in despair. Meanwhile, Walters, who was on trial for kidnapping, was sentenced to 2 years in prison for his conviction that the child was Bobby Dunbar by the court. The child then lived with the Dunbar couple as Bobby Dunbar. Anderson later moved to Mississippi and married, raising 7 children, and claimed that her child's name was Charles Bruce Anderson, her own son, for the rest of her life. When Bobby was 10 years old, a journalist who was covering the Bobby Dunbar case interviewed him. Bobby remembered being with Walters when he was arrested, but he didn't remember going to the lake with his family. Additionally, there was another boy with Walters and Bobby at the time, and Bobby remembered that the boy had died just before Walters was arrested. This led to rumors that Walters had kidnapped both Bobby Dunbar and Charles Bruce Anderson. After being released from prison, Walters did not mention the other boy that Bobby had talked about, and the identity of the second boy remained a mystery. However, this testimony is unreliable because it is based on Bobby's memory when he was only 4 years old. Bobby Dunbar went on to marry and have 4 children before passing away in 1966. In 1999, Margaret Dunbar Kirchwright, Bobby Dunbar's granddaughter, received newspaper clippings and a photo album about the Bobby Dunbar case from her father. Having grown up hearing about the case, Margaret always wanted to know the truth and eventually decided to investigate by researching books related to her grandfather's disappearance at the Library of Congress. While conducting her own investigation, she found Anderson, who had once claimed that Bobby Dunbar was his son, to be a credible source and reached out to Anderson's descendants. Linda Tarver, Anderson's granddaughter, also grew up hearing about the Bobby Dunbar case and wanted to know the truth. The only way to solve the case was through DNA testing, which was impossible in 1912 but feasible now. Margaret demanded that her father, Bob Dunbar Jr., submit DNA for testing, but he initially refused. However, after being convinced by Margaret, he eventually submitted a DNA sample to a laboratory. The DNA was compared to that of Bobby's brother Alonzo, and a month later, the test results came back. Bob and Margaret hoped that their grandfather was the real Bobby Dunbar, but he was not. The Dunbar family was confused by the DNA test results, and some criticized Margaret for insisting on DNA testing despite the advice of other family members. The DNA test revealed that the person who had lived as Bobby Dunbar was actually Charles Bruce Anderson, Julia's son. So where did the real Bobby Dunbar disappear to 100 years ago? Swayze Lake, where Bobby disappeared, was a place with many alligators, and August, the month in which Bobby went missing, was when alligators were most active. Accidents of people being eaten by alligators also occurred, and the hypothesis that Bobby was attacked by an alligator exists. Later, a hat similar to the one Bobby was wearing when he disappeared was found downstream of the lake, supporting this theory. Was Bobby eaten by an alligator that day? Leslie, Bobby Dunbar's mother, initially had doubts about the boy being her son when she first met him. However, this was thought to be because they had been separated for 8 months, and after the reunion, Leslie claimed that the boy was her son. Bobby's granddaughter, Margaret, says, "I think she knew that he wasn't her own child. And Bobby Dunbar himself would have realized that he wasn't the real Bobby Dunbar as he grew up." Although the Dunbar couple knew that the boy was not their son, they accepted him as the real Bobby in their heart to fill the void of losing their child, even if it was with guilt, Margaret speculates. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found the video interesting, please like and subscribe.